It is indeed my honor to introduce today's commencement speaker, Daljit Bains. Daljit, an alumna from the class of 1999, is currently the Chief Compliance Officer for the Peace Corps and is responsible for the management and global compliance of Peace Corps programs for 70 different countries. Prior to joining the Peace Corps, she served as a business and process consultant to a number of small businesses on the West Coast and has more than a decade of domestic and international experience in the biotechnology, pharmaceutical, and medical device industries. The founder of Core Textiles, a company specializing in fair trade products from India, Daljit mentors and works with women in India, educating them in international marketing and trade. She teaches these women to develop quality standards and marketing programs to meet the requirements of North American markets, enabling a living wage to hundreds of weavers in the handicraft and handloom sector of rural India. Daljit has a degree in biology from Mills and is fluent in Punjabi and Hindi. By focusing on equity, women's, and human rights, Daljit is a wonderful example of the power of a Mills education. She is very honored and excited to be addressing our community on the 15th anniversary of her own graduation from Mills. I know that she will be a truly inspirational speaker. Daljit?
Hello. What an honor to be here today. Thank you for having me. Dear esteemed board, alumni, President DeCudro, faculty, staff, friends and family, and most of all, to the class of 2014, welcome. You're almost there. Today, we're here to celebrate you and your accomplishments. Today is a day that speaks to all that you've done to get here, pulling all-nighters studying, and pulling all-nighters not studying. The papers, the presentations, the tests are all done. You've juggled jobs, families, and many responsibilities. Today is a day that also speaks to all that your loved ones and your professors have done to get you to the finish line. So I'd like you to please pause for a moment, close your eyes, and take a deep breath and reflect upon your accomplishment, the work that it has taken to get here, and remember what this feels like. And know that you have it in you to do whatever you set your mind to. Hearing Dakota and Liz speak, it was so interesting because I realized we really are from the same bloodline in many ways. The messages were so similar. And I'd like to share with you a few of my experiences on the road since I've left Mills. I remember sitting in your seats 15 years ago as a biology major. So happy that that last genetics test from Dr. Yeri was written and turned in, that the final lab cleanup was done, and that my thesis on plant compounds with antiretroviral activity was behind me. And with a title like that, who wouldn't want it be? But it was almost behind me because, as my advisor pointed out, I had this thing called analysis paralysis. Maybe you've experienced this at some point, and if you have, I warn you it's a condition that can follow you after college as well. And so with the choices that you have before you, the planning that you've done and thought about, many of you know, it seems to me, what your next steps are, and there probably are many who do not. So what do you do next? Are you playing for the summer? Have you found work? You know where you're going in the fall? Are you thinking still about your path to happiness and success? Well, today you have the benefit of starting this journey by having a degree from one of the top 10 women's colleges in the country. This oldest women's college on the West Coast, standing solo it seems at times, looking out west, it feels like an independent place, and it absolutely is. And take this independent spirit with you, it will serve you always. Your degree symbolizes all of the technical skills that you need to do well in your chosen profession. But is this enough? From my experiences, it was the skills I picked up inside the classrooms in the science building and outside of these gates that has formed and greatly influenced my path. For me, these skills have been learning to walk the earth, building relationships, and being of service. So you may have read my bio, you may have heard it, and know my story. But as in all stories, the interesting parts are usually the notes in the margin. And I'd like to share with you today a few notes from the margins of my story. Being first-generation South Asian, my parents had immigrated from India 30 years earlier. And so naturally, the career paths that were an option for me were doctor, professor, and doctor. In that order. And so naturally, I majored in biology. And then I decided I might want to be a naturopathic doctor. Still not quite the doctor my parents had imagined. But even that didn't pan out, as I decided to start a career in biotech a few months after graduation. But my first job after graduation was a temp job at a headhunting firm in San Francisco. So I used to go in every day into the financial district, and I would sit down and read these resumes, which I know doesn't sound very exciting, but they were actually short stories. They were 20 pages long, and they talked about the different paths people had taken to get to what they were being considered for, the CEO positions. There was everybody from the woman who had spent 20 years raising a family that went on to lead an investment bank. There was a young man who dropped out of school at 18, traveled the world all on the way to finding his path. And then there was the man who managed a tire store in the Midwest for 15 years before he decided to go a different route. And then there were the people who had gone the traditional routes. They'd gone to the Ivy Leagues, all on their way to the corner office. This job had a great influence on me, as I saw from real-life examples that there are many paths to go to where you'd like to be. And like most experiences, I felt the impact of this later when I was struggling on what to do next in my own life. I also learned that when we choose a path, it's about reflecting on the life experiences we've had, because we are a collection of so much, and pay attention to the ones that make you feel the most alive, because there's very important information contained in that. And so I'd like to impart that to you today, as you sit in your graduation seats, that whatever your version of your path to success is, and however you define that for yourself, it can be achieved, regardless of where you are today. All paths are equal, and like the spokes of a wheel, there are many paths, but they lead to the same center. So a few years of being on my path in the biotech pharma world, I knew there was something missing for me on a very deep level. While I still found biological systems elegant and beautiful, and I thought it was so cool that Chinese hamster ovarian cells could make drug products? How is that even possible? My heart just wasn't quite singing in the way that I had hoped it would or imagined it should while I was working. And considering work is how we spend 40% of our lives, I wanted to find something that made me feel alive. And then I reflected back to those resumes and the experiences of those people's lives. And I remembered that my path did not have to be linear in the way that I was thinking. I could be fluid, and I then started to reflect on what made me feel alive. And those things were having direct relationships with people, serving where there is a great need, and experiencing my role as a part of this larger world, this global tapestry. As I thought about what I could do with the moments that made me feel most alive, I thought going into international development work would serve that need for me. And so I started to apply to all the NGOs in the Bay Area, and nobody called me back. And then I thought, well, no wonder, I probably look too corporate. Let me highlight all of that volunteer activist work I did, then they'll call me. And no one called me back. So instead of trying to break into the NGO world, I decided to do it on my own. And I launched my fair trade shawls and textile business, Core Shawls and Textiles, in 2007. I had a desire to make an impact in rural communities in India, especially in the lives of women. Focusing on the rural communities was important to me because often, due to a lack of work, families will move to live in shanty towns in the larger cities of India. And I don't believe anyone has an aspiration to leave their village and to go live in a shanty town, but people do it out of a necessity to feed their families. So my business was an opportunity for me to do work that was important to me by focusing on human relationships, being of service, and having a direct impact. I also learned that when people have jobs, the other things that make up a full livelihood, like education, nutrition, and healthcare, usually naturally follow. So I was glad to be able to have the impact at a local level, and I continued to grow my business. A few years later, though, I decided I wanted to do something a little different and maybe on a global scale. And I found an opportunity with the Peace Corps in Washington, D.C. to do so. When I saw the position of the Chief Compliance Officer, I thought this position was written specifically for me. It perfectly combined the technical skills from my biotech pharma world in compliance, along with the social entrepreneurship I had done, and I thought it was perfect. And I'm glad the Peace Corps thought so as well, and I joined the agency in August of 2010. For me, this was an especially telling moment, because what seemed like disparate snapshots at the time, and there's no way I could have connected the dots, biotech and social entrepreneurship were coming together for me in a way that I couldn't have imagined when I started my path. And so I go back to reflect on what makes you feel alive and just start walking in a direction. And I encourage you to pay attention to those things. And so the other things that have made me feel most alive, walking the earth is a big part for me. Walking the earth is really a mindset. It's anything that takes you outside of your normal world. When you walk the earth, you begin to see yourself as a part of the larger world, a part of this global whole, a part of being interconnected. It challenges you, and it subsequently helps you grow. Another benefit of walking the earth is that you might find that what unites us is far greater than what divides us. This is a quote from our first Peace Corps director, Sergeant Shriver. When I came to Mills, I was actually quite surprised on how many different lines people were divided on, but I also realized it was a training ground. We may have felt those divisions, but at the end of the day, we all walked out as one group. Walking the earth has rung true for me, especially when I can walk, see the people, and feel the air on my skin of a place. Again, walking the earth is a mindset. If you can go out and do it, I really encourage you to. We can read and hear stories, but nothing replaces standing in the capital of Cameroon, in Yaoundé, and hearing West African French being spoken around you. Nothing replaces the experience of stepping off a plane in Singapore and being enveloped in a sweet cloud of humidity, or of tasting fresh coffee in St. Mark's Square in Venice, Italy, seeing the people of a place, connecting one-to-one. Nothing replaces human connections. So when you're sitting at a train or a bus station on your travels and you share a smile with someone who doesn't speak the same language as you, you will find that what unites us is greater than what divides us. Walking the earth can be done right here in the US as well. There are so many places to go and see and people to meet. Walking the earth can be done in your neighborhood. I used to teeter at an elementary school about 3 miles from the Mills campus, and it was a different world from where I was inside these gates. But still, I could find a connection with the parents, the teachers, and most importantly, with the young students. Really, it's about having curiosity about something you don't know. Taking this activity of walking the earth has helped me reimagine the world and my place in it. I hope that this is a note in the margins of your own story one day, and perhaps it already is. But for myself, I have found nothing more fulfilling. Another note from the margins of my story is being of service. I firmly believe that greatness comes when you choose to stand for something greater than yourself. Our lives and societies are only as good as what we put into them. When we are of service in the lives of others, we give to the global whole. When we uplift one or two people, it could be somebody across the street, next to you, on the other side of the world, we truly all rise together. And all of us, we have so much to give. But service is not just about working in a dusty, faraway part of the earth. Being of service means giving back to those around you. When you step out today, you might need mentors and guides, but 15 years from now, you can ask yourself who you've brought along with you. Whatever field you're in, you can help people in their success and on their path. One of the first visitors I saw when I was a speaker when I was in Washington, D.C. was Madeleine Albright. And she came to speak at the Peace Corps commemorating our 50th anniversary. And she said something that has stuck with me since. She said, "Hell has a very special place for women who don't help other women." So may this stay with you as well, helping all of those around you, wherever the need is the greatest. The third and final note in my story of what has influenced me has been forming relationships. One of the most important relationships you'll ever have is the one that you have with yourself. So build this on love and self-respect, and it will serve you your whole life. I believe all other relationships, be it with colleagues, friends, loved ones, will all be a direct reflection of the relationship you have with yourself. There's a quote that's attributed to Buddha that states, "You, as much as anyone else, deserve your own love and affection." And you do. So take the time to take good care of yourself, nourish your body, mind, and soul with healthy food, meditation, exercise, whatever serves you. Surround yourself with people who believe in you and your dreams. And above all, trust your intuition, especially when it comes to being in a relation with others. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. Don't ignore these little cues you're sent. It's your higher self taking care of you. Allow it to. Beyond this, we're a community. We come from tribes and we need one another. Nourish your relationships with your friends and family, as these will sustain you when you need it the most. For myself, if it wasn't for my mother and father, I wouldn't be here. My sisters have been my bedrock. My brother, my sister-in-law, my nieces and nephews have all supported me in my journey and provided me with so much joy. So, what are some of these skills that I may have picked up from Mills that helped me build relationships? I don't know if they still serve it today, but there used to be this mean cheese plate at the art receptions. Maybe you've had it. To this day, I copy that melted brie, that fig jam, those cashews, almonds, strawberries. And that cheese plate has nourished many a relationship in my life. The conversations I had at Founders Hall with friends over dinner, where I learned about feminist theory, ethnic studies, art history, physics, and musicians, have all given me an education beyond what I had signed up for. Being at a small liberal arts women's college gave me easy access to events and people beyond what I was studying in my classroom and my labs. This engagement enriched me then, and it continues to play a role in how I engage and build relationships today. Being the Chief Compliance Officer at the Peace Corps doesn't always mean people are lining up outside my door, eager to anxious to work with me. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I have to get people who don't report to me to do things they don't want to do when they don't want to do them. So it's not aggression that works for me in these things, it's having established rapport and relationship that gets people to act. Words don't work, in my opinion. Building relationships with people and learning diplomacy works. So I ask you to reflect back on your own lives and see if having gone to war, either with yourself or anyone else, has given you the outcome you had hoped for. I don't think it has. But reflect on the last time you shared a belly laugh with someone or a genuine smile, and you will know that the most meaningful moments in your life will be the ones shared laughing or smiling with someone you care about. And so the notes in the margins of my story have been experiences I've had while traveling, giving back, and forming relationships. I share this with you today, not to say that this should be your path, but to encourage you to pay attention to those small things that truly make you feel alive and walk in that direction. All of these things end up being the big things as you find yourself identifying and creating your own path. You can create the experiences you want. You already have in so many ways, so build upon your successes. And if you decide you might like to walk the earth with the Peace Corps, I think it's a great idea. What I didn't know when I graduated was that I had wanted to join the Peace Corps as a volunteer, is that it is indeed a global leadership development program. When you return, you will have a tenacity unlike anything you had before leaving. And since the number of our countries that we serve in is constantly changing, right now we're at about 60 plus, but employers will seek you out when you return, and you will have a direct impact with your work in the field. There's not a company or nonprofit that I know of today that will pay to send you to another country to learn a different language, a different skill, and to live and learn with people of a nation for 27 months. So consider it. Just a little bit. I'm skipping a whole page of it if it helps. So this may not be for everyone, but please take the first step and find out. Mills College has been instrumental in the experiences I've had in the last 15 years. It's created a space for my class, the class of '99, which was loud and opinionated. And then I started thinking, isn't that every Mills class? We've had the opportunity, all of us, to have some very difficult conversations in this space. It's created a safe space for us to test our boundaries. And this then creates the ability in the alumni and in you, the soon-to-be alumni, to go on and challenge the status quo of the major issues that we all have a hand in changing and guiding. So Mills encouraged my curiosity, and I had access to so much on a small campus. For this experience, I will always be grateful. So I'd like to just wrap up by saying that I think it's the people who walk the earth, the ones who remain curious, are the ones that I think that should be running global companies. You're the ones we want in foreign policy and government. You're the ones we want in education, research, and healthcare. You are the ones we want singing, painting, dancing, and writing music and poetry about the world you know so well. So today, embrace this moment, embrace your loved ones, and most of all, embrace yourselves. To this graduating class of 2014 and those who have supported you, I applaud you and I applaud your efforts. And I wish you so much love, success as you define it, and joy as you cross this threshold into the next chapter of your lives. Congratulations.